Hello, welcome back to the Evolve podcast with me, Lewis, and my 60%, Sam, because I've been really feeling very rough, and Sam's going to have to carry me through this podcast today. So, Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you very much, Lewis. Really wanted to know more about that 60%, but then you explained it to me earlier, and it's quite romantic, actually, and I think the audience needs to know more about it, because I don't feel appreciated enough in life. So you need to tell them why I'm 60%.
I love that, because it was this trend I saw on like social media where, you know, couples say, oh, it's 50-50, but it's like you both should think you're the 60% or both giving 60%. I think you should both be given 100 personally, but that's being realistic. But yeah, so
this is a democracy.
Off the dome, you're the 60% today because I've been bedbound for 3 days. And this is the most I've spoke in 3 days. So it's been rough. So this is actually 3 days later than I don't even know what day it is.
There's three. Where if you count the Sunday as the day, we're 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days. So the balance is off.
Yeah, it feels wrong. And like, you know what? I'm a creature of habit. Considering like call myself, I hate change. I hate when there's a disruption in the process. So my whole Sunday was a mess. Then Monday, I just sat there and just staring at the ceiling like, oh God, I've got to do something.
Just start.
And you just kind of stare off. I was like, what's going on? They're like, yeah.
Have you done that thing where, because you know you're hitting 30 next year? Sorry, to mention it. Have you done that thing where you just look out the window with the hands behind your back yet? Just thinking about shit.
I did it today. I did it only today. Bro, I did it. I left the meeting and then just stood there, staring across the garden.
Yeah, just pondering like you're in a montage.
I didn't bet. And then like, obviously I've got my cat who just stood there with me, and then I looked down at them and then just kind of caught a bit of my reflection in the window, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm a dad. My dad did this. I just sat my ass back down. I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. Instead of like you put your hand on the window, like,
you have to check. You have to check yourself, bro. But God, let's go. Let's get into it. So updates.
Yeah. Updates. So you go first because you have caused disruptions. What's been going on with you, and how did your life been as well?
Well, I'll start from the top.
Yeah.
So let's see. It was last week, Monday now. So I had another call with a producer who I had to catch up with the following week. I think I mentioned it in the last episode, but he's like a friend of the family, the one who I spoke about, who was the one who talked about how he's, you know, directing, producing, and he wants to turn up in like best shape ever, like that dude. So I had a call with him, and he introduced me to two people who are also working on this film that he's producing, so like other producers and things like that. So it was great to kind of network. I was feeling good at the start of the week. So he was just talking about the process of like producing this short film, getting funding, how to expand his network, and like talking about like expanding the film network, because again, like I said in a previous pod episode, it's a referral business, so everyone knows each other, and the only way you get in is unless you're invited in. So I was thinking about what kind of value I can provide people who I know in my network, who I can potentially reach out to help him with his funding goal. I think it's like 25k that he needs to, that he wants to fund. So gonna follow up with gonna follow up on that this week, and then the rest of the week I was just kind of focusing on editing, kind of focusing a lot on different kind of elements of, you know, doing the thing. Because what I've come to realize is that after speaking to numerous people, that in terms of what I need to understand for editing and getting into film editing, is that there's basically 3 pillars of skills that you need to have. Editing is just one pillar. And when I say editing, I mean the technical skills, that you need to have, be that with Adobe, the Avid, DaVinci Resolve, those sort of things. But one thing I learned listening to a podcast is that you actually need to have your adaptability to learn new programs, because the programs that I'm learning now probably won't be used potentially. So it's the adaptability to learn those technical things as well. And the other pillar is, well, one of the other pillars is storytelling. So I've learned this from, again, listening to more podcasts and listening to the people who I network with, is that coming to editing with an ability to naturally be a storyteller, which comes very much in sync with the things which I wanted to do as a child. As I mentioned, I wanted to be an author when I was like 4 years old. And that is something which I think I have quite an innate ability of storytelling, but actually reading into how I can learn that and bring that mixed in with the editing as well. And the third pillar, if you haven't already guessed, is networking. So those are the three things that I need to have to have a very, 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 very solid foundation. So that's really been a big realization for the past week, because that helps me now narrow my focus in terms of like, oh, should I be reaching out, or should I be editing, or, you know, the answer is do all of it, but be very adaptable to learning new skills, continue reaching out to people. But also the main thing is actually the ability to actually have a good ability of storytelling, because you could be really technically good at editing, but if your storytelling ability is shit, the editing ability doesn't really matter from a filmmaking perspective. So that is probably going to be one thing which I'm actually going to focus on going forward. I caught up with Ian, who was the guy who I mentioned gave like my first invoice, so I didn't know how to invoice. So I caught up with him. We chatted all things editing as well. Talked about who I can network with, and, you know, there's more potential to work with him in a few months' time as well. So the start of the week was very good. And then I went on the 22-mile run and then died Sunday to pretty much a few hours ago. So that's me.
Yeah.
So humbling experience, I tell you. Because I was like, yeah, I'm on my shit. You know, done my 22 marathon mile run, and now I'm going to taper. Like, I'm on it. And then, God, let me humble you real quick.
Yeah. maybe it's like an experience in like, you should balance the physical and the mental, because it sounds like you've listed, like, because when you said you're ill, I didn't want to like start quizzing you, like, what's up, how are you doing? I don't want to get that bossy, like, are you sure you're ill? You doing some work today? What's wrong with you? But also, it's like, he's definitely burning himself out, and I think you burnt yourself out to an extreme way. It's not like, I see it as like, I mean, I'd love to know from a psychologist like this, but when I get burnt out, I see it as it's phases. Once I'm mentally done, then I'm physically done. Mentally, it's more irritable. I can't concentrate on nothing, but I have enough willpower to push me through things. Physically, it's like I'm completely incoherent. I could not string sentences together. Like, you couldn't get me to do anything properly. Then eventually, like, I literally got moved. Like, I'm so tired, and I've got as far as all of that. Plus, I couldn't see because I had a migraine that night in real one.
Damn.
So, I think you got yourself to that physical state of like being ill. Because not only are you like medically tasking yourself, trying all these new challenges, you're constantly like trying new things, and you got so excited about this podcast, and you're massive inspiration for me to actually want to work hard on this type of stuff.
Yeah,
because like you're so enthusiastic about it, you burn yourself out on trying to achieve stuff, which isn't a bad thing. I think it's something that you develop grit with, and then you can get better at it. But I do kind of saw it as soon as you told me you're ill, and I was like, this guy's prepping for a marathon, as well as dealing with all these new learnings. And you're not reading like God knows how many books a day. I know you're watching bare videos. I know you're doing loads of research before the pod. I know you're also actively churning through loads of episodes we could be doing in the future. Like, your brain is constantly ticking, and then you're off to do another like run exercise, which is burning all the remaining calories your body needs to actually heal the brain that's overworking. Like, as soon as she said like, I'm not feeling well today, I was just like, well, it's bound to happen. We enjoyed it whilst it lasted. And I was like, I'm maybe just sitting there and be like, if he dies, he's going to do this. I was like, I was going to quit this thing. But yeah,
the thing is, I think, yeah. You know what? It was actually, it's a weird feeling because, like you said, it just threw off everything. And it was just so frustrating. And you know me, like, one of my flaws is that I'm very organized, and I have a little bit of perfectionism, because like I have the marathon plan like on like my cork board, and I've done every single run, I've done every single gym session. I had to miss a running session and a gym session, and it pisses me off, because if I don't do the time that I want to do in the marathon now, I'm going to be like, it's because I was ill, and it's because of those 2 sessions that I missed. And I know, logically speaking, it will be fine, but that's just how my brain works, because I'm now like, I didn't do 100% because I wasn't 100%. But you know what? It's happened. I got a few days to chill, so is what it is. We get back on it. But I just need to ease myself back into it. But Sunday was all right. Like, I don't even really remember Sunday. I only really kind of regained consciousness today. But you know, it was good to actually like switch off. But on the bright side of things, I'm glad it happened 3 weeks out for the marathon as opposed to week off, because if I had to do it this Sunday, I'd be stressing right now. I'd be sweating.
Did you find out what it was? I know we've got like an actual topic for today, but like, did you find out what it was?
No idea. I think it was a combination of things. Like, a 22-mile run was out with the heat as well. I didn't eat the right things afterwards. Like, Rosie and I got a Chinese. Probably wasn't the best thing to do. And I didn't hydrate. So I think it was just perfectly timed chaos. Is what I'm prescribing it to. Yeah, it's all self-induced.
I still feel sorry for you, but you really messed up.
Is what it is. But switch over to you. How have you been?
Mine has been productive, but triggered by all the wrong reasons. I'll tell you why. Okay. So before, obviously, I knew the bank holiday was coming, so Thursday felt like a Friday to me. I was really excited. Like, it's going to take some time off. I was doing that. I wasn't doing the thing. Like, we talked about this. I was excited to plan to do the thing. I was excited about the idea of doing the thing. I was so excited about what happens after I've done the things that I ended up creating a list of things that I couldn't achieve within the time I had. So basically, like, it felt overwhelming what I'd basically written out. That I wanted to know the website's game. I want to make sure I need to do my I need to do the information statement for insurance. I need to do all like the finances and stuff. I was like, oh, I've got to do this, blah, blah. And then, like, because my list was so granular, each item felt massive, even though they're all tiny stuff within like one big task. And I just leave it, and then I just kept like procrastinating. And then the trigger point was, we have a mailing system that's MailerLite that basically supports all the essential newsletters. And like our users sign up. So basically, it's basically our MailChimp. It's like MailChimp. But we use it to sort out all our comms with our members. And I missed an email that told me that by the 1st of February this year, they're going to get rid of the service that we use, and that everyone should migrate their users to their new version. So I missed it, but because I wasn't looking at the emails properly, I wasn't on the ball. So because I missed it, I looked back in and I was talking to Ollie, and I was like, all right, Ollie, I'm going to prep like new emails because we want to like start getting more specialistic and create content. So I'm going to create an email journey to encourage users to tell us if they want to be specialists and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And when I went to create the journey, I was like, Ollie, I can't find an account. And he's just like, what? And I was like, I think they deleted their account. So I'm like writing them with scathing like email to these people, like, you've completely ruined our business for me, done all this stuff. And then it turned out I just missed the email telling me to sort out my list by the day. They gave me like 3 weeks heads up that this was done. This is like a task that really would have taken me an hour at most. If I'm even, this is an hour of me dragging my feet and taking me to do it. And I missed it, and it was the most gut-wrenching thing because I just felt like I failed myself because I've been lazy and I've been procrastinating all these tasks I've got to do. I've been thinking about how amazing it'd be when all this stuff is done, but I've not done it. And because I've not been doing it, I felt the punishment for it. So off the back of that, I basically like tripled my efforts. So I was like, everything I'm doing now, I've got to be back on the board. Enough pissing about. No more fucking around. You want the money, you've got to make the money. You've got to work hard for this stuff. So I basically just sat down. I went to bed, I think, on from the bank holiday, the earliest I've gone to bed is 2 o'clock. in the morning the next day. I basically just moved work lifestyle. So obviously finished the design for our website. That's Carl. I've already mapped out how I'm going to get it live. I've already found the domain name we're going to use. Sorted out that email list that night. Like the night we found it, I was like, all right, Ollie, put an action plan together. Ollie basically went through all the user details. We created like a new export list, uploaded it into the system. All of that sorted. We're like, perfect. We're on it. Let's go. What else did we do? We sorted the mailing list, sorted marketing permissions, all that sorted. And then now I did a very sad thing of removing a few products that we used to work on off our website. So I went from like being lazy, really productive, and then I kind of reached that stage of like, I've done all this work, now I've got to reflect on the work I've done. And then it's sad because I realized that there was stuff that we'd worked so hard on that's no longer relevant to the business. And it's time to like wash our hands of it. And for the longest time, I've avoided doing this. So our business just looked so messy until this point because we had Hub on our website. We had Evolve, the OG Evolve, that was me talking about like well-being and stuff. OG Evolve, we had that on there. We also had a blog website that we made, and that was on there. And I just looked at it and I just like, well, I'm already on like this whole fix in our website system, our front end. So let's just carry on with it. So I removed blog and Evolve from our website, and it got very emotional for me because I kind of sat back and I was like, at each point of those products being developed, they were the most important things to us when they were being made. And now we're working on Hub, and we're so excited about Hub. Those two products mean nothing now. Like they're like part of the history, but they're not part of the journey. We're always had to get rid of them. And it felt emotional, but it quickly felt like I had a weight off my shoulders. Because I felt like, oh, like I've got less to work on now, and I've put my mind towards all. And even though technically I hadn't been working on those two things, it just felt like I was responsible for less things. So I can put more effort to be more responsible for the things happening now, like this version of Evolve, like Hub that we're working on. And I put a plan together, and like all of a sudden the world just seemed easier. So it's been a weird bank on the weekend. I really enjoyed it, the ups and the downs, and it kind of brought into the point of our discussion today, which is relationships, right? Because Sarah's always been on my case that you need to sort it out. You need to get rid of all these other products that have nothing to do with conversation about. You're too stuck with them. You're too, I was like, no, like, I know what I'm doing. Just, and then you keep making excuses to keep them attached. And she finally had that word of me, and yeah, they're gone now. Like it was never there.
Yeah, that's good, man. And I think it allows you to have focus on what's important. And it's not like that work that you did was a waste because it had value for the time. It's like, I don't know why this popped into my head when you mentioned, like, you know, you're getting rid of the what was it, the blog and the other thing I can't remember off the top of my head. Sorry, bro, I'm brain's a bit foggy. Evolve in the blog. It reminded me of have you read Nike founder's memoir Shoe Dog?
No, tell me.
It reminded me, so Nike was actually not called Nike first. It was actually called Blue Ribbon. And Nike was actually a type of shoe, type of running shoe, I believe, that they made. And it reminded me of when they decided to get rid of the name Blue Ribbon and to go with Nike. Because Phil Knight was very much, he was actually against the name Nike to begin with anyway. But which is actually quite funny. But it's pun not intended. It's part of, you know, your company evolving. So it's good that you're able to see, is this relevant? And it's like you're holding on to like the sentimental value of it, I suppose, as opposed to the actual value, which is good in some sense, but for business reasons isn't always the case. So it's good that you're able to, cut ties and see the value of what is worth and put it to the side. I think that's something which I would struggle with some things. If I had to get rid of some parts of like some video or some editing that I had to do, because it's just like you put.
It's like hoarding.
It's like hoarding. Yeah. So let's get into this because I'm looking forward to this subject. So Sam and I, it's episode 4, guys. Welcome. And we're talking a lot about relationships in this episode. And just to put as a preface for this episode, this is a perspective coming from two straight men. So please don't be offended. We're trying not to get cancelled. We're trying not to piss anyone off. And this isn't necessarily advice. It's more of a opening of a dialogue. If you take it as advice, don't blame us. But I've actually done like a lot of first party research, whatever you call it. I went to Rosie, I spoke to my parents, I spoke to my business friends who run their own companies, and I've learned a lot last week as well. That was like another big part of last week, was having those conversations with how do you manage dating, relationships, your marriage, alongside your business. So, Sam, putting the focus on you, putting the highlight on you for a moment, because you're engaged to be married. You're kind of like one of the only like business friends who I have who have been very consistent, and who I've also noticed has been in a relationship for a long time, and obviously it's going well. How have you found balancing building a relationship as well as your company? And I would also love for you to go into how your fiance has found it as well, and if there's any alignment, disagreements within that. So over to you, Sam.
Okay, so I will say it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy, and I'm happy to say why. The reason it hasn't been easy is because when the relationship first started, I was definitely like the lazy one, the more like party outgoing. So I started a relationship with different set of expectations for her than what I became and what I changed into and what relationship became. So when we first met, obviously we were at uni, going out all the time, pretty much hopeless because I'd given up and never doing well. And then I was kind of inspired by her, obviously, to try and achieve more, because I wanted to be with this beautiful woman, and I wanted to like prove to her like her investment in me, regardless of what her friends might say, was worth it, right?
Yeah.
So we pushed on that journey, and it turned into me having like a really strong work ethic, because I feel like I had to make amends, not just to her, but to like my mum, dad, everyone in my family, like for all the mess I've made from just being an idiot and not concentrating on life. So I was on the grind, and I've been working very hard. I think that meant that my behavior changed. I went from Sam that's playing about and joking all the time to Sam that's like constantly stuck in his office working. Sam that was constantly trying to get a pay rise at work, all this stuff. Or if that behavior basically meant that I wasn't being this amazing boyfriend who was like spending every day with her and almost every second with her. She didn't really hide it. She didn't hide that it was upsetting to her. But one thing that made it all better, and I asked about it recently as well, because, you know, in preparation for this episode, I wanted to get more relevant information from her. And she basically said that it's actually one of my most attractive qualities to her. So when we first met, obviously we were friends with benefits more than anything. So it's just like the physical stuff was all that mattered, like all this diet trend, all this stuff, right? And then once the relationship carries on, it becomes more about what he is the person, what do they bring to your life. And one of the things that she said is most attractive to about me is the fact that I'm self-motivated, I'm ambitious, and I work hard. But of course, that comes to the negatives of I don't spend as much time with her. And it does say there's a risk of like, if I get too attached on YBs, it's obviously financial risk to our lifestyle. I'm basically risking more than just my own money. We have a house together now. So that's on the other hand, for me, that's the other side of being in a relationship, right? We're engaged, we've got a house together. The risks I would take are not as great as what I would if I was single on my own. Like if I was on my own, I'd be taking way more financial risks with my business idea. So I could just go and live with my mum if all else fails. If I were to take those risks now, I risk making her homeless and putting her in a situation she doesn't want to be in. Not be mindful of that. But overall, she's very proud of me, and I think that's what spurs me on to keep trying. But the one thing I've had to now recently adjust into doing is taking that extra time to have a break, to kind of grow our relationship and do more with that. Because we're getting married next year and we've committed our lives to each other now. Then to see how this goes. Hopefully we'll have kids one day and all this stuff. And there's a lot of work that needs to be put into place so then you can have that relationship with yourself, your wife, and your kids without bringing any trauma in. Like, I don't want to be in that position and then trying to fix myself and then trying to be a more sociable father or husband. I want to work on that now, so when I go into that kind of life, it's a smooth transition. But the best thing I think she said is that she knows that at the end of the day, the grind will pay off and the lifestyle will have be so much better. But her theory is that that won't be enough because I'm now addicted to the hard work, if you get what I mean. Like, I'm addicted to the process. I'm addicted to the grind. It feels weird. Like we said in a few episodes back, for me, it feels weird to take a holiday because it feels like I could be doing something at this time. I know that was a trauma response because I nearly failed out uni. And that was for me taking breaks. So if I take a break now, oh my God, we'll have like, if I go on a date with her, I'm not working. But one thing I realized was sometimes I'd say I'm going to do something and I'm just sat on the sofa, like resting and sleeping on the sofa, and I just want some time to myself. And I'm actually not doing all these things that I'm complaining I'm not able to do because I'm doing all this stuff and stuff. So yeah, I think a quick summary of that is that it's a balancing act. My relationship, I didn't start with the expectations of, oh, this is the kind of person I'm going to become. I just became that person while she was with me. And it's become a sort of being aware of that and seeing how comfortable she is with that. I'll admit that I had no plans of changing if she didn't like that. My view was like, well, if you don't want me to be someone who's a high achiever, then I'm sorry, it's not going to work. And thankfully, she was also like, well, I want to be someone who's a high achiever. So it actually worked out great for both of us. And we're on this path together. There was actually a point where I got her involved in the businesses, like intersection fair. And that ceased now because she was basically like, no, I was doing it for you because she wanted me to stay passionate in it. But she's like, but you are, like, you can do it on your own. Like, you don't need me to be a part of the team to feel like you're doing it. You don't need me to be an employee or something for me to feel like, yeah, okay. But deep down, the reason I did it is so like technically we're spending time together. We'll also talk about business because that's what I care about. And then we kind of realized, well, that's not a healthy way of approaching it. How about we actually talk about our relationship because that's what you care about. We'll talk about business another time when you care about that then. So yeah, there's a boat more to talk about. But I think what I represent in this discussion is like mid to later stages. But what I found in the beauty of your situation is that you've been Rosie for a year now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're kind of like, it's still early stages, but you're in that beautiful spot of like, you've actually gone into a relationship with the expectations that you're on your grind. And she loves that about it. So I want to hear more about that before we even go into all these about me.
Yeah, I mean, what is actually quite funny is that I had to, before I go into the relationship, I have to say, I had to really kind of re-educate myself, because I thought that I couldn't have both. So my perspective on relationships before Rosie for like 2.5 years, so the time that I was single, I thought that relationships would take up my time and kind of weigh me down and kind of cripple my ambition a bit. Yeah. And I thought that if I was going to kind of work in myself and enter a relationship, I wouldn't be able to kind of give enough time to that person. And I didn't think that a person I would date would understand that they're not the number one most important thing. So when I started dating when I was single, I was very much like if it's not like 100% perfect in every single way, then I'm not going to entertain it. And there's this book I read called How to Not Die Alone by Logan Uri, don't know how to pronounce her surname, but she is the relationship scientist at Hinge. And she says that people tend to fall into 3 categories of dating: romanticizers, maximizers, and hesitators. romanticizers want everything to be perfect when they meet, like meeting organically. They want it to be all romantic. And maximizers want themselves to be perfect. So, they want themselves to be in best amount of shape, best career, and X, Y, and Z. So, and hesitators, I think, I can't actually remember that one because it didn't really apply to me as much. But I think they just tend to avoid sort of like emotional connections and things like that. But I was very much neck and neck maximizer and romanticizer. I think I was more maximizer actually. So I had to change perspectives of like, I think one day I after I read this book, it's no coincidence that I got into a relationship shortly afterwards, because I was like, oh, maybe I'm the problem. So I was like, oh, humbling experience. I was like, oh shit, maybe it's me. So yeah, I kind of had to change my perspective on relationships are like, can be a beautiful thing. And I can also find someone who can understand me, and I can actually be authentic and kind of speak what's on my mind. So entering this relationship, I didn't even start the company yet, which is crazy. So this has actually been the most consistent I've been. And Rosie's actually been a huge enabler of my motivation, which has been, and discipline, which has been great, because it's helped me focus on that we're kind of, although it's very early stages, Rosie and I are very, very serious, because we address those compatibility issues or potential issues early, as opposed to going off just chemistry. It's like you hear so many stories of people who date for 2 years, then realize they don't want to get married and have kids. So you should treat, I know I'm not saying this is advice, but very much treat dating like as you would a job interview, right? You need to know, like, where do you want to go? What are your expectations and all this sort of stuff. So Rosie and I addressed this very, very early on, and fortunately very compatible, and the chemistry was there as well. And you need to have the combination of both. So the expectation going in was very much like upfront that, look, I have my full-time job and things like that, but I also have this ambition to edit and I wasn't even necessarily consistent at that point. I was falling into entrepreneur tendencies because I hadn't been doing it consistently for a while. But it was something which there was like a mental block to go that was going in there as well, which I think I can go into in another episode. But it's what's been quite good dating is that, like I said, because I was very upfront with my sort of like expectations, and that, you know what, midweek I might have to say, oh, I actually really want to focus on like geometry scales in Adobe Premiere Pro, and can we spend time later on that week or at the weekend? And it's kind of focusing on when I'm with you, and I'm not going to talk about work or like speak on my laptop. Like, I think what's important is that you're present. And when you're spending time with your person, you're spending time with your person. And when you're focused on your work, you're focused on your work, and kind of trying to silo as much as you possibly can. Obviously, it'll flow in between as things grow. But I think having that understanding of my time can't always be with you. And if I need to focus on something, this shouldn't be viewed as you losing time with me. It's investment for the future that we are building together. And I think it's just having very open communication on that and involving them, like you did with Sarah, involving them into your business. Although you involved her directly into the business, what I'm saying is involving them within the conversation, like with what you're up to. And one of the things which I've two of the main takeaways which I took away from Jay Shetty's book, it was 8 Rules of Love. It came out January last year. Is that one was like, you both need to focus on both your purposes. You are both individual people, you are not just a relationship, and building your purposes together should be the main goal, as opposed to, Sarah just solely focusing on yours, or vice versa. Same for myself and Rosie. And one of the things which Jay Shetty said, which I took very, very quick into my relationship with Rosie, is weekly check-ins. And this could range from a 5-minute to a 30-minute discussion. And it sounds very cliche, but so far, I know I don't have a lot of skin in the game because, my relationship's over a year, but I know that this will work for long term because we have weekly check-ins of, do you feel loved this week? That's the first question that we ask. And we kind of follow up with that. Is there any sort of issues? How do you feel? What are current challenges that you're kind of working on if you hadn't, told me everything during the week? And I think it's just creating a safe space to kind of say what's on your mind. Hopefully everything's all good. There's been some weeks where, it's been all good, but the other week where I was super, super busy, didn't get to see her as much. We had a bit of more of a catch up then and be like, you know what, didn't get to spend as much time as you as I'd like to. Could we spend more me and you time this weekend? And it's that's cool. And my parents take the piss out of me because they call Rosie and I an old couple because we're very, very organized, but it's how it very much works for me. Rosie and I have a shared calendar, and it runs our relationship. It runs our relationship.
Lauren tried that, and it's basically her way of she's basically soon to become my personal assistant. Because what that shared calendar is basically all. It's basically all the commitments I've made to other people, I'll share our friends. So let's say you and Rosie go a double date. I will naturally say yes. I say yes to all invites, right? And then I do it later. So it'll come to flow where I've got 5 things to do in the same day. So what's been developed is it's the Google Calendar that basically goes, nope, that's going, and I'll be but that's basically what it's become. What I love about your relationship is, I guess love that about mine as well, is that at some point you did it right, I did it later. At some point you've had that conversation about shared values, and there was a piece of research I was reading. It was something around action couples or couples starting action businesses together. I looked at it from this is the average startup, they want to do a business together, all this kind of stuff. And one of the key things they found in successful relationships within the shared business was that they took the time to develop trust, and they did that through communications and having ways to handle any issues rather than just being reactive, being focused on being reaction based. Rather than being reaction based and just doing this as they come, they developed ways of actually deal with issues ahead of time. And they also had they communicated very clearly. And that's what I love about how you guys have weeks, or you have a day in the week where you kind of sit down and review yourself. Now, to the audience, I don't do that.
I don't think it's something that every couple needs to do. I'm not saying every couple must be doing this.
That's a feeling works for you.
It very much works for me. Yeah. But
one thing to know, I think, is that it's important to have that kind of approach of this works for us. This is what we're going to do. And this is what makes a successful couple. And from the outside in, bro, it looks beautiful. You guys, when we had the catch-up sessions, we have a midweek catch-up session and shit, bringing cookies and stuff. Mom's there tapping my lips together, I could do some cookies right now. Then Sarah comes, I'm just looking, this is what's my cookie? Lewis gets cookies. But she's very quick to remind me, just Lewis and Rosie do stuff together. You've been standing your laptop all week. So you get cookies when we do stuff together. And then at that point, I'm just okay.
Humbling experience.
Definitely.
Shout out to Rosie as well, because she's our merch manager. Show them the shirt.
Just shirt.
And the mugs.
Got the mugs.
Got the mugs. So
no more free sponsorships for bottle brands and energy drinks.
So she's merch manager. So shout out Rosie. But what I also wanted to ask you 2 things.
Yes.
As well, because I want to go a little bit deep into the relationships aspect. why do you want to get married specifically? Not married to Sarah, but just married in general. And what kind of things were you looking for marriage material wise?
Okay, so
it's kind of like a two-part.
I have a very like objective way when it comes to marriage, and it's not something that many people see as palatable, right? It's not something that many people make fans of. But I do see like 50% of it as just paperwork to basically let the government know that we're in this for right now, we're doing this together. That's it. There's a lot of the other aspects of marriage. You already achieved that by the time you propose, or you're already on that journey of like we're in this together. Like when I proposed, that was me saying that I'm committed to you the rest of my life. Right? Her saying yes, it's like, I agree. Now we've got to go stand in front of our friends and family and redo that whole thing, but with all money being spent and in a better outfit. That's how I see it. Like, but for me, it goes a bit further. And when I look at it in terms of, I really don't see myself being with someone better than her. I really don't. I don't want to imagine a world where I'm not with her, because as much as we might bicker and stuff, this is the healthiest relationship I've ever had. Two, she is well and truly a ride or die. Like, she really cares, and she shows that in her behaviors and how she approaches certain things. Of like, although I at the time might see, oh, you're being a dick, she is like in the long term looking at like, this will help us both, this will help you, and I really appreciate that. I always tend to come to find later on, as much as I hate it, that she was right. It does help me out. It helps us both out, right?
Clip that.
Delete it. I've got arguments to lose. I need to win something, right? Other than that, it really is that commitment piece. Is that it's kind of just getting more juice out your squeeze. That's like, we already love each other, and like it sounds like there's like the different benefits in loving each other. Like, we can join our unions. We basically merge. We basically merge the investments we put into the world, put it into one big melting pot, and it becomes our share of investment in the world. We basically go out into the world with essentially bigger capital whilst we're married. And there's loads of little nuances to that. But for me, a lot of the risks around marriage is like, in our generation, we're very aware of divorces. Like, back in my parents don't understand the concept of it. They see divorce as like stupidity. No, just ride it out. Whereas we're very aware of the possibility that the marriage isn't the end. The marriage isn't like, oh, now we're stuck together. Marriages don't fix relationships, right? We're very aware of it. And because of that, it makes me very cautious, because I also see marriage as a risk and a liability to my personal value or my personal earnings. So as soon as I've met someone who washes away that risk, it makes me feel safe in taking that risk and merging and, seeing that kind of future together, and I don't get like heart palpitations when I realize, oh my God, I don't feel like I'm stuck with this person for the rest of my life. I feel like I get to be with this person for the rest of my life. That was when I kind of made that decision. And that's a bar. Bro, there's more to come, man.
That's a bar.
But like, that's when I kind of realized that, yeah, this is definitely something that's worth doing. Now, for me personally, from the few guys I've spoken to, then the guys I've spoken to, marriage isn't the like stamp on commitment, but then the girls I've spoken to, marriage is. And the guys I've spoken to, having the kid together, having a baby together, whether you adopt or whatever it is, that's the stamp of commitment, because there's no backing out. You've got a life together. You've got to nurture that thing. One way or another, I'm in your life, and there's no getting rid of me. Whereas from the girls I spoke to, it was like someone invests in you enough to help you create that wonderful day where all your families can come together and you can merge and you can celebrate this amazing time. And I definitely see that for Sarah, that's like the beauty spot for her. Whereas for me, it's like, prints me out a baby. I don't know. Spawn a human for me. That's basically it for me. So the addition to that is, for me, marriage is a step closer to doing that in a healthier way for us. I'm not anyone having like children out of wedlock, whatever you want to call it. But for me, it's more, I see it more of a stable environment, because that's what I've witnessed in my life. It's like a stable environment to have kids, to be married and have the kids, because that's not about what my parents have imprinted in me. Yeah, that's essentially the value I see in it. I'm about to throw you in the truck though, dude. What's it going to take for you to get married?
Oh no, Boomerang. I think for me, and I've always kind of been this way. since, been an adult, really. I've grown up with two great parents who I've seen love each other every single day, but they're best friends. And it's really beautiful to witness that. And it's always something which I've wanted to aspire to have. And so for me, it's even replicating somewhat of my parents' marriage is an absolute win. And I asked them for a lot of advice because I think they've been married like 32 years happily, I will add, because a lot of people are married not necessarily happily, but I can say they are happily married, and so can they. I had individual conversation with them both. But before I get into that, for me to get married, I need to live with Rosie first.
Yeah.
And after that, after a healthy duration of living together, and we could afford the wedding, not necessarily the wedding, the honeymoon. I don't really care about the wedding. The honeymoon's where the most money's spent. Anyone who thinks they're coming to my wedding, we're going cheap on you. I'm sorry, because I want to be gone for a month. But
Okay.
but to go back to my perspective, I mean, I always know that I've wanted to get married, have a wife, have kids. So I've always been dating for marriage. I think if you have the goal of getting married and you're dating someone thinking that you're not, you potentially, if you know that you're not going to marry the person that you're dating, I think you're wasting your time.
Sure.
And I've always been that way. So commitment for me starts very early. So marriage is just an extra step that I will do once I can afford to do it, and once it's the right time to get married. We've obviously spoke about the timelines of when we'd like to get married, but Rosie at the same time is like, yeah, I don't really mind as long as, I trust in that we will get married, and we will get married because it's something that we both want to do. Yeah, so for me, marriage is very much like once I can afford to get married and I've lived with you and I know we're very much compatible in the living aspect, then yeah, and if I can afford the ring, it depends on how much I want to spend on it, then yeah, once I can afford to, I'll do it. Yeah, as I was saying earlier before I went on a tangent, I asked my parents what would they say is good sort of advice, not even advice, but why do they think their marriage is lasting this long and why it's happy. And, my mum sent me a couple of voice notes because I wanted her perspective of, being with my dad whilst he's been building, whilst he's been focused on his companies. And I also had a conversation with dad because my dad was like, this is not a voice note, big man. This is a long conversation. So, but the alignment in where they agreed on like 99% of things. But one thing which my dad said is that change is inevitable.
Yeah.
You're both going to change as people. You're not just stuck as who you are once you're married. And one thing which they both said, which has made their marriage so happy and is lasting as long as it will do, because a lot of couples grow apart, right? And divorce, like once they've had kids and kids have left home, they realize they don't really love each other that much and they're staying for the kids. My parents have always made very clear that they are each other's most important person above myself and my brother. Like I remember having this conversation with my parents. Like, if we were all hanging off the edge of a cliff, my mum is saving my dad and my dad is saving my mum.
Wow.
End of.
Wow.
Like, they're like, yeah, they're the most important person. And my mum said, well, I chose to spend my life with him. And I was like, fair.
My choice.
I was like,
You
fair.
can't get it because actually, I get it because I think it's a time ago.
I was like, fair, bro. Because
Like,
it's true.
yeah.
Because mum was like,
Yes.
your kids are going to grow, they're going to leave, they're going to start their own families, right? So my parents have always had that sort of perspective. Obviously, if we were like kids and stuff, it's different. But we're grown men, me and my brother. So it's like and we've left the nest, and it's my mum and dad. And going back to the change, is that, you're going to change as people. And the reason why, so I asked my dad, like, okay, so how have you guys stuck together whilst your personalities have changed? And they both said it's because we have a very solid foundation of friendship. They are best friends. Like, and that's been the thing that's carried them. They're first and foremost friends before anything else. And you can actually tell that they are friends. And one of the things which, again, going back into my relationship with Rosie, is that we kind of have, your classic dates, which are romantic dates, but we also have dates which are kind of like building the friendship as well. It's like that brings out like the competitive side, and it's like, playing games and things like that. So it's building the friendship with your partner as well as building the romantic side of things. And that's one thing which I think is like really sort of like making sure you actually get along. Like, you're not just staying for gifts or for sex and birthdays and whatever. You actually enjoy spending time with the person that you're with. And they will have opinions that you disagree with, but you respect them enough to be like, you know what, it's fine. And I think it's not setting that ridiculous expectation of my perfect person is going to agree with absolutely everything I'm going to say. And it's true though, because it's the same like with your boys. Like, you're going to disagree, but they're going to say some dumb shit, but they're still your boys.
It's different with your boys.
Well, obviously it's different, but you should. But having a solid friendship foundation. Obviously, obviously, because you won't know, but my parents were friends for years.
Yeah,
like 15 years. So they already had a solid foundation of friendship. And yeah, so they already had that as a solid foundation. So my parents' relationship is extremely rare. Because people aren't friends for that long. They're just not now. Our generation's impatient.
It's almost like I don't understand all about like their commitment to each other, because it's basically like being best friends before and then we chose to actually turn that into a relationship. So we risked it all to be with each other, right? And then we not just did it brother accidents, but they looked at each other and went, before you, we were together. So after you, we're going to be together. You know how it works, but like you got
what is quite good as well is that I asked my dad, like, how did he manage, spending time with my mom as a husband, but also spending time with me and my brother. Because when I look back on my childhood, I don't think that I've never thought once like, oh, I didn't get to spend enough time with my dad or my mom. Like, I know, like, our household was very much structured. Like, my dad was going out and doing work, and mum was building the home. But when I spoke to my dad, me and my dad actually never had this conversation at all until last week. But he was like, well, it was something that we were building together. Like, my dad could go out and work and put in hours after work to learn coding and things like that. Because my mom was staying at home and raising me and my brother. And my dad was saying, like, perceptions of your kids is going to be completely different. But my dad was very much like, I need to make sure I see the kids before they go to bed. So even if I got to sort of 20 minutes with my dad and like spend quality time with that for like 20 minutes or check in like during the week, I saw that as good quality time. And I think my dad had that quality time as opposed to quantity of time. And I think he used that for his marriage as well as being a dad. And it was a bar, bro. It was very much quality of time. Obviously, he says like it's not perfect. Like, it's like work-life balance isn't necessarily a thing. It's just life. And there are going to be fires that you need to put out as they pop up. And he would kind of check in with with my mum, saying like, fancy me a new time. He's like, all right, bet. Me and my brother get yeeted to my nan's, spend a weekend together. Calm, like putting out fires as they come up. Because looking back now and knowing all the stuff that my dad was learning. I was like, how did he juggle all this stuff?
Oh, you went that way with it. I thought you were gonna go south with that. I'm being like, looking back on what I'm like now and what so you got shit on
No.
then Malcolm Miller hit the camera and they're gone.
But we're gonna move on because my parents gonna listen to this.
Yeah.
But like, because my dad left investment banking, and when they were pregnant with my brother, he was like, okay, I need to learn how to do all this coding stuff because this is what's gonna bring in bread. So after work, he was studying and doing, like actually studying like after work and putting in the hours and things like that. So yeah, it was juggling all of this stuff and just doing it as you come along. And I think one thing I've begun to learn, and I had this realization when I was like 22, is that your parents, your CEOs and your millionaires, like, they're just figuring it out as they go along.
Oh, dude, that's what I think. I've had this thing like this weekend.
Yeah. When you realize your parents, when you realize your parents aren't Neo and Trinity from the Matrix, you're like,
when you're a child, you look up to their relationship as like, okay, when I get to like when I'm 25, I'm gonna find my partner, and then I'm gonna get at this age, and then magically you're just gonna know how to pay bills, and magically you're gonna work out how to do count stats, and all this stuff just falls into place perfectly. It turns out everyone just waffles their way through it until eventually they're like, oh, this is how you do it. But there's so many like annoying little accidents that happen on the journey. They make like little mistakes that me and Sarah make now of like, we'll mess up something like, you call the bank and I don't know, you say the wrong thing or you send the wrong money to someone. All these little things that you kind of thought your parents would figure this stuff out. Like, do you understand? No.
Yeah.
They're all making the same mistakes. Because we come from definitely different family backgrounds. And would you say, has that impacted like the health of your relationship and like the view of what you should be achieving in your relationship? And I'll add more to that. Or the people I've been with, including Sarah, come from very happy families. So we went to Disneyland, we went to Disney World, we saw this stuff around, and we've got all these amazing core memories with their families. And those people tend to want to have a relationship that replicates that. Whereas for me, mine is just African movie episodes every day. Like, I would chill with skinny dogs in the room. And then like times where I went like years without seeing my dad at some point, or like months without seeing my dad because he'll be in a different country working, right? Or like I'm getting flip-flops flying across and just whacking me on the back of the head. Or like, I can see my parents argue and I'll mess up and they'll like join forces and just come at me like I'm the problem in the room, right? So like, I came from a very like, you better get along with the grind and accept the world is a mess. Whereas everyone else is looking at who's really excited to like relive their parents' like relationships through their own personal relationships. They're very much like, oh, we did all these fun stuff. And as much as there's a bit of envy around that, one thing I'm very aware of what is that I've definitely benefited in my witnessing my parents' relationship because although they argue and bicker whatever it is, they love each other, right? They have their ways of showing it. And it's not the healthiest way, I would say. I love that they love each other for who they are. And I think in the same way as like when I hear from families like yours, it's once again, people accepting each other for who they are. But the one key thing is they clearly have an impact on the children and people on the outside that kind of watch the relationships and learn from them. And one thing I've learned is for me and Sarah is like, it's seeing people who come from completely different experiences of what a relationship is coming together. And in many cases, it's like, what I would say I bring to a relationship is like grit, willpower, and determination because I've had it beaten into me of like, there's moments of like, why are you crying? Like, he made you cry. Like, and I'm just there, like, and then my dad would be like, shut up. And my mom would be like, no, and like, they'll have an argument over like, who gets to tell me off more, or who's getting the right, how they tell me, that kind of stuff, right? And sales strategies could be different, but with that mindset, there's moments where I'm sat there and I'm like, I'm really upset, I'm tearful, I'm still working. Like, I'm getting headaches, I'm still working. I'm like, why are you crying? Man, keep working. That comes into play. And there's moments where like Sarah's pushing through stuff. And I'm like, nah, keep going, keep pushing. But then the other way around of like, she's more maternal and more caring. But she comes from a family that shows more care. and like they really enjoy quality time and stuff. So she'll bring that entire relationship of like, you need to rest, you need to like spend time together. Like it's all about, let's go like 2 dates this week. What's do this? And I'm just sat there like, no, I've got money to make, all this stuff. So like, I feel like I really embody my parents' relationship, and she really embodies hers. And I think those aspects come into play. Sending that back to you, do you agree or disagree in that? Are you in a similar situation, or both you and Rosie from very different leagues?
I think Rosie and I come from, we both have had great examples of what a marriage should look like in our perspective, if that answers your question. Right. And one of the things which my dad has said to me when we had a conversation is that, because he's working on all this, and what was his expectations with his mum and things like that, and how does she find it? And my mum was just the support, like just the best support, and just being the biggest cheerleader. And that is what Rosie and I have for each other right now, is that we're each other's like biggest supporter. Like when, and I think that's something that you really need. And I think what's helped with my consistency and also Rosie's consistency with work is that, when we have moments of self-doubt, which never go away, that's a later episode, Rosie is there to kind of be like, no, like, you got this, is calm, and able to kind of put out we're able to talk through moments of self-doubt, and that's been very, very good for me to kind of be consistent. And I remember coming home like on a Saturday, it was like September last year, and I was thinking, I'm thinking of like forming the company. And she was like, yeah, do it. And I was like, suck, I'll do it right now. Yeah. And she took a photo like there and then of when I like submitted the company. There's a picture of when I actually submitted to do everything. I'm saving it for the future Netflix doc when we make bags. I'm not leaking that photo, but I'm literally like in a baggy shirt. I've got my specs on, and I'm gassed because I submitted my company. But she's been there for like all the big moments in the past year, which has been great. And again, I said this earlier, but just to emphasize, like, it's been the most consistent I've been. And what Rosie has also acted as is an accountability manager, because I don't want to be someone who, again, is saying like, oh, I'm going to work on this, and then nothing happens. Because if I'm saying I'm not going to spend time with you because I want to work on this today, and then she's like, oh, what did you get up to last night? And it's actually, I was on my phone and did TikTok and I actually didn't do it, then I'm an arsehole in my book. So it's being very selective with my time. But just to come back to the question. Rosie also has like great parents who I get along with. They have an awesome marriage as well in my book, looking from outside in. And Rosie and I very much share values of what our relationship should look like, what future marriage should look like. So yeah, it's really good. And one of the things which I wanted in before I got into the relationship was I wanted someone who understood the fact that they will be the most important person, but I need to be the most. I think you need to prioritize yourself, and your purpose. Your purpose being like what your goals are. I know purpose is very much like a cliche term at the moment. And you need to help them on their path as well, if you can. So supporting each other's goals and focuses, and doing that together, and keeping communication on that. And Rosie again is very driven with her work and her career, and we always check in about that. But also, it's just being realistic with each other and being able to kind of like speak each other's mind and all that sort of things. Which has been great. And that's kind of been the main things that I've wanted to focus on. And so far it's been great. I mean, I within the past the year and a bit, formed the company, doing the pod. I've edited more, I've focused more. So like I said earlier, she's been a massive enabler for me to do what I want to do. So I can't really complain.
Oh, okay. So I have a question for you. And it is, one, how did you meet Rosie? And two, would you change it if you could go back in time and change how you met? Would you?
Yes, 100%.
Wow, okay.
We met on Hinge. It's gross. It's just gross to say Hinge. Yeah. But you know what? It's how the majority of couples are dating nowadays. Like the romantic in me would have loved for it to been organically through a friend of a friend and things like that. But you know what? Game's the game, man. We're here, aren't we?
Yeah.
So it's actually really funny because I actually gave up on dating apps until I read Logan Urie's book, the How to Not Die Alone book. And I was like, you know what? Fine. I'll try Hinge one more time. Downloaded it, matched Rosie, got a number, deleted the app, and I obviously didn't need to go on it again. So I'd like to say one and done, but it wasn't the first time I deleted Hinge, unfortunately. But game's the game. But so coming back to you, because you've mentioned Sarah's been like really supportive. You've involved her in your business, and she's clearly very supportive. You've got a house, things like that. How do you feel? Will marriage change things? Do you feel like marriage changes anything? Like, how do you actually feel about getting married? Because you're, I know one other of my mates got married, and I haven't even like checked in with him since he's been married. But like, how do you feel about like getting married and doing the business and things like that? Do you find it overwhelming? I don't know. I'm asking this question now, but
no, I don't, and it's because he's kind of. So, how do I feel about marriage? I think I talked about really excited about the union aspects of it, right? Going into the world together. When it comes about balancing, the whole idea of it, what I do now, she makes it so easy because she knows that if I'm not put in a position where, one, I'm allowed to make my own creative choices, and two, I feel free to kind of jump in and out whenever I want. She knows that I will basically unleash the part of me that hates authority, and then I'll basically be like, I'm not doing it. Well, I'm not doing it. I'll basically act like a brat. And I think she's very aware of it. It's something I'm aware of, and I try to tame it for her especially. There's like an innate part of me that I have to feel in control of what I'm doing. She really enables me to just use my skill sets. And I'll be honest, in the whole night wedding, she's essentially doing what her dream wedding is. And I'm excited to see it because I know that what she likes, I'll very likely look at it and be like, that was a sick idea. See what we did. She keeps me updated. And the main inputs I have is make sure that my outfit looks good. Make sure I pick the right outfit for the wedding and build a wedding website. So I basically just get to do things that I enjoy doing. But the other aspect is that we do regular check-ins. It used to be weekly, but it's more like every 2 weeks or so. We'll do a check-in and we'll be focused on the wedding where she'll go like, this is what I want to do. She'll write a bullet list of what she wants to achieve on the wedding day, all these things. And she does an amazing job of just fitting all of these things into my schedule. The bit that worries me is why it's early in my schedule, right? Sarah's got her own hopes and dreams and things she wants to achieve. And the role I'm trying to now, one trying to get better at is try and take some of the stress off her and encourage her to go and, try out her own business ideas and try out more ventures and pushing her to apply for more PhD opportunities and all these things. Because I'm very aware that once we get married, on to the next step is probably getting a house and having kids and all that stuff. We're pretty much on a track towards success that we want, right? And you can't have any disruptions to that. So I'm trying to encourage her to unlock into place commitments that she can carry on as part of that 5-year plan, rather than throwing curveballs in once we're married.
Yeah.
I'd say that because my fear is that she will feel disappointed once we're married and feel like we could have achieved so much, but didn't because she was too busy basically nursing me for a while. And that kind of touches on like how we met, obviously. But yeah, that's my one word. When it comes to after we get married, I'm very aware it's going to feel like holiday blues. Like, I'm very aware that once the day's over, it'll just feel like another day in our lives. I think you have like the honeymoon period, like the literal honeymoon period. We go on holiday together, we come back, we all lovey-dovey. Everyone in Instagram needs to know that we're a perfect family without cats. And like, we're trying for babies and all that stuff, right? But I'm very aware it'll come to a stage where it'll feel just like this, where we're in a relationship. It's just that I call her my wife, and every time I say it, it'll probably make me feel a bit giddy. Like, when I call her my fiance, every time I'm just like, oh yeah, I love fiance. I am making fiance too. Like, let's go. But I'm also excited to have a ring, like something shiny. But yeah, anyway, that's like those are the things. Yeah,
good. I wanna keep talking because this is a really good topic.
Yeah.
And before we talked a lot about relationships, but why do you think also individuals should be alone as well? Because I think we should have a very whole-rounded discussion on why being alone has its advantages as well.
This is a juicy episode. I like how long this episode is.
Yeah, it's a juicy juice.
Juicy. All right. So before we delve deeper, I'm gonna like jump in on your segment that you've introduced here. The guy who was struggling to pronounce, what's his name? Alex Hormozy.
Hormozy.
Alex Hormozy. So he keeps coming up with my YouTube shorts, and he comes up as like this guy who started his own gym, but like every other shorts, it's him and his wife, I think. Leila, I don't know, Leila. That's how you spell it. And I don't know how to pronounce the name, but yeah, it's his.
You say Leia?
Leila.
Okay.
Leila.
Move on.
I don't know. Anyway,
Layla.
I think of Layla. Dyslexia is not good. So she comes up like on every other story that I see him in. So before this, I was like, I just watched one of his episodes when he talks about her, and he made it very clear that although he's benefited from being in a relationship with her, he put a lot of effort into himself and put a lot of effort into finding the right person before he settled down. Because I think what's really easy to do is like listen to mine and your story and kind of go, I'll just find a girl and like make it work, because we've not really talked about negative experiences we've had as much with girls either. And it kind of goes into like how people use dating apps like yourself, like Hinge and all these things. What you really should be doing is looking for someone that meets your core values, that aligns with what you want to achieve in life. Obviously someone you're also attracted to. And then it's a case of, if you aren't able to find that person that gives you that satisfaction, don't just try and find someone because they're good enough. Upgrade yourself to that level. It's basically spending time on your own, working on yourself. You want to get a lady who's like business orientated and everything and all this stuff. Well, make yourself someone that she would want to be with, or he would want to be with, or they would want to be with in general, right? Make yourself someone that you would imagine your significant other wants. So in the minute, it's almost like looking in the mirror, and how can you put yourself in a position when people you want, or the person you want to be with, it's basically looking at that person thinking, yeah, I want to be with that person. Like when you imagine that person wants to be with in that life you have, what do you imagine they're doing, and how can you put yourself in a position where you can help or play a significant role in achieving that lifestyle? Like I remember looking at that and kind of going, that was not how I met Sarah. That wasn't not at all how I met. I was a mess when I met her, and I'll be honest in saying that I spotted she was my significant other, and I went on that journey after I'd met my significant other. But I look at my friends who are in, I look at my friends who aren't in relationships right now, and I think one thing I envied, I'm glad I've been able to achieve that as well, is they really know who they are and what they want from life, and they haven't naturally developed their ambitions and goals to match their significant other, which is what happens often when you're in a really long relationship. You won't see it coming, but your values will pivot slightly, and things that matter to you would slowly change because you become like one person over time. And because they spend so much time on their own, they know who they are, they know what they want to achieve, they know they are picky people, but they're picky for the reasons of they know which person will actually satisfy in life, right? And they know what they want to achieve before they find a significant other. So I think there is beauty to being single and going on that journey. But I think the most important thing though is that I think there's also something about finding a relationship not being a personal trait, right? You don't. I think it's unhealthy to be someone that's just desperate to be in a relationship. Like every time you meet someone, you're just like, "Oh, help me find a girl. Or I want to be married like you one day. Well, I want to." I mean, like, it's unhealthy because then you're actively just going around cloning other people or pretending to be good enough for someone else, and you just end up in one unhealthy relationship after another. Because you're just faking it till you make it. Because you're just desperate to be in a relationship. I think that's really unhealthy. I think there's more power in just being who you are, and the relationship coming to you, the right person coming to you when that time is right. And there's a lot of power in being able to, one, say no to people that aren't right for you before it gets too deep. And then two, saying yes to someone because you know for a fact, you know who you are, you know what you like and don't like, and that person can answer to you that. And it's a lot healthy to do that. So there's a lot of people that are going to listen to us thinking, I really need to find someone. This episode is going to teach you how to find someone. Really, what I'm telling you is find out what makes you happy. The right person will come along, and you'll be better at spotting that right person when you're comfortable with who you are.
Absolutely, man. And I think there's a lot that goes on in life that you can't prescribe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily like a hardcore like religious Christian, but I do believe like there are things that are just out of our control.
Yeah,
definitely more of a spiritual person, and timing is a weird thing. Like the timing of my current relationship was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It couldn't have been timed any better because I was in quite a low place with work. And again, it's like you were saying, like you met Sarah when you were in a mess.
Yeah.
And Rosie met me when I was in a really low place, like with work. And she's seen me like build and build and build and build. Yeah. And now it's to a point where, you know, I'm getting to a place where I'm actually quite happy with what I'm doing. Not necessarily in my job, but outside of work, I'm working on my purpose. And for her, it's like, it's been really good to see. And that was like what she was saying in the voice notes. So I look like I actually am a lot brighter because I'm actually doing things that I want to work on. But to go back on being, the advantages of being, I just want to kind of bring it back to kind of like being a business owner and things like that. I think it's, the main thing I think is like quality of the time that you're spending. Yeah. Speaking to entrepreneurs, my brother in particular, he's obviously, he's got $100 million business, thousands of dollars, can't remember. Yeah. And when we were speaking about dating, there are advantages of being single, because if he needs to move to New York to build an office and, you know, raise millions for funding, he can do that. Right. Without any sort of, hassle if he's single, right? So his requirement levels of dating are very, very niche. Because if he has to leave a dinner early to speak to an investor to raise millions, he needs someone who can understand that. Yeah. Although it's not ideal, he needs someone that understands that is a possibility. So mobility is definitely an advantage when you aren't settling down in terms of like having that mobility to kind of do what you can at a moment's notice. And that freedom of thought is quite important. Well, one of the things which we kind of spoke about as well, because he's obviously a business owner, he's dated other business owners, and the businesses are essentially like their kids, and they very much come first. And that can also be quite difficult because I think in a previous relationship, they were basically all over the globe at different amount of times and basically just couldn't really spend enough time with each other. But again, I think there's a lot of things that you can't prescribe in life. I think when things happens, it happens. Like if people were to, this is why I don't want to say, listen to our advice. Yeah. My relationship it's complete luck. It's complete luck that I went on the Hinge that one day, and Hinge just went, "Oh, Rosie's most compatible," and she matched book. Like it's complete luck based. So I'm not gonna say like, work on your purpose and you'll fight, because I wasn't working on my purpose at all at that time. I am now, but I wouldn't say that I was necessarily working on my purpose at that moment.
I will completely agree with you in terms of I wasn't focused on my purpose when I met Sarah, and I feel like I need to do some justice of actually telling people how we met, because I keep dodging around it. But it was definitely a techie one of how we met, because we met in like the later stages of my previous relationship, and it was very much like that was dead. I think everyone knew it's dead, but I just wasn't accepting it. She pretty much was accepting it. I was just being a loser. That was like, no, we can make it work. It's because I come from a family where divorce isn't a thing. But I think somewhere deep down, I was like, nah, it's dead. Like, we just gotta let it go. And eventually we did. But before we did, I actually went out. I was meant to do coursework. And a friend of mine, my housemate at the time, was basically like, we should go and watch like the dance show. And I was just like, dude, I've got coursework to do. But also I was like, I'm going to fail this course. Like, there's no point. Why am I putting so much effort in it? I didn't want to be at home with my now ex, and I was just like, I'm just getting out. So we went, went to the dance show. And we met, he was friends with Sarah's friend. And then we got introduced to him. And I remember just looking at him, just being like, whoa, like, who the hell? Who is this human? What is going on? But like, I felt so uncomfortable because I don't cheat. I never have, never would. But I felt so uncomfortable deep down of like how I felt seeing her. And I remember just thinking like, maybe we can just be friends. We can just be friends. And then she could be in my life still. We're best friends, and I'll be cool. And I'll be fine. And we'll be all right. Eventually my ex just ended it with me because she was done by then anyway. And it was basically like being dragged on so long that she basically was just like, yeah, no. So we basically cut it off. And then I think, I don't even know, this must have been a month or something down the line. We were hanging around the same friendship with Sarah and everything, and then we met each other at LDOT last day of term. When the Trent people or uni students, you get it. Met each other at LDOT, and then I remember just being like, hey, she's like, hey, you back? And then we're just like chatting. I remember just feeling like, I'm now free to get to know this person. But I was also so adamant that I didn't want to form a relationship. I was so adamant that I wanted to just be who I am. And I really had to fight with it. To the point where I accepted that she's going to go far in life. I'm going to be some losers like has a really shit job. I'm going to get cleaner or something. And here's what it is. Like, these are the cards I've been dealt with. Let's have a good time with her in life. Your ex is up to great things. Everyone's up to great things. You'll be left behind. And that's fine. Because these are the cards you've been dealt with. You put yourself in this position. So my goal was just like, just have my fun and keep it stepping. But I started to realize that every decision I was making somehow came back to how can I be a better person to be with Sarah? And I hated it. Like, I hated it so much because I was coming off the trauma of like a really bad relationship. I know you warned me. I know loads of people warned me and it was a bad idea, but I worked through it. And I got to a point where I was just like, no, I need to play it smart. So don't just start into stuff because you feel the type of way. But it just kept coming back to her. It's like, I need to just somehow progress that. Long story short, I kind of just accepted that I really liked her. And I think there was moments that I kind of reflected back to, like when we first locked up, let's say. And it was basically that I remember like going back to hers, and straight away we opened up to each other about our mental health, like our past relationships and everything we've been through. And obviously like she'd learned that I was single now and all this stuff. And I felt so comfortable just talking to her about the shit I was going through that I'd never been able to do before with anyone else. Like, not even the boys, not even my mom or dad, nothing. I just felt so comfortable just saying that, I'm not in the best position in life. I need to fix myself up. And she looked at me and basically just went, you think I am? I've got problems. Like, I've got issues that need to be fixed.
Big man, Barat's friend. What do you expect?
Exactly. If you don't do it, like, what are you doing? Like, shut. And like, we kind of just like, in-depth, like, conversation with someone that I felt like I've known all my life. And it sounds cheesy, but that is genuinely like, you hear about this and you're like, it's not like that. But genuinely, it felt like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's sick, man.
And then, like, eventually, obviously, the rest is history and all that stuff. But what I'm trying to say is that one way or another, it all touched on improving yourself. But what I'm trying to highlight on that is that if self-improvement isn't the amount of money you put in the bank, self-improvement isn't how far your business has come and all this stuff. Self-improvement truly is what it is. It's how far you've come as a person. And the fact that
absolutely,
without knowing it, I developed into someone who can openly have a conversation with someone who wasn't a significant other, but someone who became a significant other. I was able to actually have a healthy conversation with a girl for the first time ever in my life without making me feel stupid or me feeling stupid for doing it, right? And because I was able to have that conversation with her, technically I was in the right position to be in a relationship with her, as much as I didn't want to be. And like you were saying, it's almost like the universe has a way of like forcing two people together. I couldn't get her out of my head. I genuinely, I tried. I was a mess. I was doing everything, but I couldn't. And eventually I came back and I was just like, right, well, I didn't cheat. So I know if I commit to this, I'm not going anywhere. I'm giving it all my all. And that's been it since then. There's been days I've been selfish. I've only looked at my stuff. Like, regardless, if she came into this room right now and said like, I'm sad, I promise you, once this podcast is wrapped up, whatever my to-dos are, I'm taking my laptop, I'm sitting down next to her, we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to pester her until she tells me what she said. And I don't think I've been anyone that's looked at me, seen that behavior, and accepted it as he's really trying rather than you're very annoying. You know what I mean? Like, that's
I think it's what I find quite interesting is that your self-improvement journey was kind of started from that relationship. I mean, how many years ago was that now?
Oh,
is that what,
6 years now? Heading to
6 years ago?
Sure.
6-7 years ago. Whereas when I think for me, my most transformative years mentally and physically were during my time after my previous relationship, because it was lockdown, and I was really, and I think that's kind of where it started. It started like near the end, because I used that time to read, and you now know, like, I read all the time. I think I did all of uni without like reading anything outside of coursework. I mean, even then I barely read, but I read on, I started reading like books by like Ryan Holiday, like The Obstacle is the Way, Stillness is Key, Ego is the Enemy, things like that. I then was reading like Jay Shetty, Think Like a Monk, and I was just really kind of focused on how could I become better, or who would like, and I think the thing is, beforehand I used to be very stubborn that I didn't want anyone to help me. So when I made it, I could say like, yeah, it was just all me. And that's like the dumbest shit ever, because no one actually ever makes it on their own. Like, everyone has, support along the way. Like, I had support then anyway. Like, it would have been ridiculous. It was just a ridiculous viewpoint, and I don't know where it came from, but that's something which I had to unlearn. And I thought, well, one thing which, this is the best advice I've ever like heard online, is that if you want, like, if your dream mentor, for example, was like David Goggins or Jay Shetty or any of these people, you don't necessarily need to know them personally to consider them a mentor. You can, these people post podcasts every single week. They post articles every single week. They've done 1 billion interviews. You could listen to these and take notes. And that's kind of like the philosophy I kind of had going forward and learning. And, Bruce Lee's martial art, Jeet Kune Do, and he basically took different martial arts that he liked, like Wing Chun, Kung Fu, Karate, Taekwondo, and he takes what works for him, disregards the rest. That is basically my approach to learning. Okay. And so when I started reading, I was like, oh, you know what? I want to know how I can get better. What are the things that can work? Then I heard about journaling, then I heard about meditation, and why exercise was really good. And once I learned that exercise was beneficial for me mentally and actually understood the science behind it, I did a kind of like an A/B test where I journaled before I worked out and journaled afterwards. It was an accidental A/B test. I didn't mean to. It was just before the workout, I wrote like 2 lines that I was in a grumpy mood. And afterwards, I was like really high up on life. And ever since I had that physical evidence of, I prefer being person B more than person A, it made it a routine as opposed to going for something which is long-term gratifications, like six packs and shit like that. But if I know that I am actually getting better each and every time that I'm doing this workout and getting those minimal gains and that 1% better, and I think it was Atomic Habits was the first book, which is like, everybody should read that. That was the most transformative book I have ever read in my life, and I swear by it, and I will die on that hill.
Well, I need to listen to the audiobook again, because I did.
I will die on that hill.
It's a really good book. Yeah,
that changed the game, because I started like applying like these techniques in longer because I had the time to, because I was also furloughed for a bit. But it was things like I found it hard to read consistently, but obviously I had to read this book. So it was like, as opposed to thinking, I have to read like 300 pages, just read for like 10 minutes or read 5 pages, or like lowering the metric and then just doing that. And then all of a sudden you're becoming this person. And the mind journals, the first one I got was, again, I had all this time because I was freed up space because I was single.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what is the person that I want to become now that I have the capacity to actually really deeply think about it? And so I started I was writing a list of like all these qualities that I want to have. And it's funny that you mentioned Alex Hormozy, because he mentioned this in a podcast. I'm not sure where, but I saw the clip on TikTok, and it's like, the qualities that you want to have a price point. It's like, if you want to be patient, you're going to be opportunities to be patient. If you want to be disciplined, you're going to have opportunities you have to have opportunities to make yourself disciplined. It's like what I was saying to Rosie in regards to marathon training, is that she wants to become someone who has run a marathon, run the London Marathon, and she hates the training and I hate the training. But I was like, this is the price that you pay for wanting to be able to say that you've run a marathon. It's like when someone has a 6-pack, they have worked for the 6-pack. So, and that's why it's admirable, because these things have a high price point. So you need the cost to get like the prize.
Yeah.
So, and I really just kind of like deep dived into all these kind of things now that I was alone and kind of had time to kind of deep dive into, okay, what is the person that I'd want to be entering a next relationship, or not even next relationship, just who is the person that I would want, someone who I would want to date to be like. So it's like, if I was idealizing like my future partner, who is the person I would like to be at that point. And I think this is where the maximizer tendency came in, because I wanted to become this sick person before I dated. So with self-improvement, and I would say ambition in general, it has to be tempered a bit, because you can't go completely off the rails and say like, I can't date because I haven't made 100 million yet, or things like that, because I think that's ridiculous. But yeah, just to bring this full circle, because I've gone on a bit of a tangent, time alone can be really valuable as well. And I don't think you have to necessarily be alone to be on your self-improvement journey. However, I think I needed that time to kind of figure out the direction I wanted to go in. And I kind of I try not to prescribe life too much. I think although having a plan is great, I always think of like a compass comes to my brain every single time. And I think if you're aiming in the right general direction, you're going to be fine. And I think that's in regard to like relationships and everything like that. So yeah, I think we've had quite differing... I actually didn't know that your self-improvement journey started with your relationship.
No,
and I think that's quite...
It's
ongoing, but I think it's ongoing all the time.
Yeah.
But I think that a significant start point, I think, was in your relationship.
Yeah.
I just found it interesting that we had never realized that. like individually.
It
But
was, yeah, for both of
yeah,
us. I think, and it goes on to, actually, we're slowly bringing this to an end now. I think I have a friend who's going through almost a copy and paste of what I went through, like with my ex, of like, you know, you know what I don't want to do, and I'm probably going to do it by accident. I do want to like lay out there. Although we aren't good for each other, she's a good person within her own right. And like, I can only hope she finds happiness. But like, yeah, I just want to clarify that before I then go on to this key. Destroy her. No, I'm joking. No, she's a wonderful person. We were just terrible for each other. And I'm sure that if we were just friends, we stayed friends, we'll probably be friends now. Then we weren't meant to be together. I will say, so he's basically going through a situation with his ex when she's ended up getting with one of his friends. Similar to kind of what I went through, but it was after their breakups, once again, similar to what I went through. And I feel like it brings home something that I think a lot of people who are single right now need to be aware of, is that people will live vicariously through you. And I think the same goes with people in relationship that want advice from their friends or family, is that people will vicariously want to live their lives through you. People that have been heartbroken will want to live their revenge arc, or they've been in an arc through your story. And that's where I see this in terms of when you see someone going on about, oh, my girl cheated on me, and everyone jumps in on the chat like, yeah, that bitch, all this stuff, or like, my boy cheated on me, and it's like, yeah, men are trash, all these things. And then like, someone in the comments, someone actually let the world know, like, it happened to me too, and all this stuff. People nick trauma for each other. So when you seek advice, you use a bigger sample size. Plus, if you're going to ask people, have more than one person to rely on for feedback. Try and go to the person. Try and do this. I read it somewhere of like, get advice from someone who's on their side. Get advice from someone who's on your side. And then get advice from someone who doesn't know either of your stories. And try to merge something that makes sense out of those areas. Because everyone has a bias, what other person's experience. Unless you're talking to an expert, that person is only an expert of their life story and will likely live through yours. And back to the friend I was going to talk about, I found myself giving him advice based on what I had done, or based on areas of what I wish I had done. And one thing I was very clear to him was, I'm giving you this advice because I feel like you want to get to where I am in life, where I want to go further. If you want to like speed run your way to where I am in life, this is what I did, and this is how I dealt with the pain of like being betrayed and all these things. It wasn't even betrayal; it was just more of like my ego was bruised, if you get what I mean. So it was like how to deal with all that kind of stuff, and it's basically like I was given all this, and then I had to like stop myself and basically go, I needed to know that I'm telling you this from a place of hurt that I have healed from. But every time I tell the story, that doesn't mean that I don't remember how painful it was. But I'm telling you, like, I'm fine with it and I'm happy now. But if I had to relive it, I'm back in that same position again. And it's hard for anyone to tell stories about heartbreak without the heartbreak coming back a tiny bit. And I was basically like trying to tell him that. So take my advice with a pinch of salt. I really want to help you achieve all the best in the world, but I need to let you know. And one thing I became very aware of is I don't think anyone that gave me advice was that honest about where the advice was coming from. Everyone that's helping me get stuff was either like helping me plot my revenge or telling me to like stop telling me because they just didn't want to hear my sad story, that kind of thing. Like there weren't many people apart from the analysis I had who were like, okay, let's process this. And obviously Sarah, who was kind of like, because she met me off the back of like me still processing certain things, being very understanding and very happy to help me through that journey. But now also come to find out because she was also like, she felt the same way about me, that she wanted me to just kind of, see this other side of the journey. But yeah, I think it's just very important that people keep that in mind, that you can get all the advice you want. Yeah. People give you advice on their life story, and sometimes they want to just what the world would be like if they did what they wish they did, but they will witness that through you. And when you take on the advice of others, you have to be mindful of the fact that they're not the ones who are going to be punished for giving you the advice. You're the one who's going to be punished for acting on it. So you need to be mindful of that. No one's going to come out and say, sorry you're broke now, sorry you're homeless and that. Like, they might be, but they're not necessarily going to help you fix the outcomes of your decisions, because at the end of the day, you made that decision by listening to them.
Yeah. I hear you, man. There's a question I do want to ask you, and I think know thyself is very important. And it's a question that I'm going to ask because I always, not always, but I think it's good to have an answer about this for myself. So, well, what are the sort of like weaknesses of, dating Sam? So like, what are the downfalls? What are the weaker areas?
Yeah.
What are the negatives of dating Sam?
I'm very aware. I'd say,
Yeah.
I've brought a lot of baggage that I've thrown away slowly. The relationship, both from like my upbringing as well as like past experiences and just life in general. And because of that, I look at everything with a microscope. I look at the fine grains of every action, every behavior. I'm very anxious, although I can come across people as like very confident and stuff. I'm very anxious and I'm always trying to think 5 steps ahead of the person I'm talking to or the I'm in the room with. Always like the safety mechanism of always being prepared. So because of that, it makes it difficult to kind of get things past me as well as kind of experience life as it is. It makes it difficult to just have certain conversations with me because my brain's already gone to like the end of the conversation without allowing the person to find the feelings within it. So like one good example was Sarah was trying to buy me a present for my birthday without letting me know. But because I had picked up on the fact that she was hiding something from me in her actions, my brain went straight to, I didn't go to like, oh, what are you hiding from me? I went to, I'm not going to do what you told me today. Until I find out what's going on, I'm going to be a child. And then we're going to tell me what's going on. And she knows me well, so she held to it. She's like, no, we're both just going to be dicks. We're not going out today. We're staying in the house. The whole literally everyone. And then like, eventually, she didn't even bring it up. Here's a video of it. She didn't even bring it up when I got my presents. I eventually pieced it all together that, that day when what's his name at shop and I was being like, I'm not ready to leave the house yet and all this stuff. You were going to buy me this. And she was like, yeah. I was like, oh. Now, like, that's the thing about me. It's like, if you ain't like, give me the patience to not find the answer out for myself, because ladies, that pisses the guys off, man. We're not here trying to play Cluedo with our lives. Just tell us what we did wrong so we can fix it. For the love of God, it's a game. Just say it. But as much as like she told me, she did call me out my BS, my bullshit, and she did let me know that I was out of line. I was not mentally prepared to accept that because I still hadn't been told what was missing. Like the thing I was suspicious of, she still hadn't made me aware of it. Or she hadn't given me what I wanted to hear or see. And the day I realized that she gave me room to kind of work it out for myself and to find it in my own way, because that's probably her way of kind of one, getting revenge and making me work hard to find out I was a dick. But then two, it's kind of like, I came to that conclusion when I had like a clearer mind to do so. I also think that I have a lot of annoying tendencies. I'm not, as much as I'm very aware because I overthink, I over-process people, behaviors and actions around me. I'm very aware of how people are feeling, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I respond in a way that aligns with how someone's feeling, right? I can be very aware that someone's very upset about something, and I can always predict sometimes like what they're going to say next based on what they're saying, because I'm watching like every action they do, like the twitches they do, everything. But I also come across, because of how I was brought up, of like, just get over it sometimes. And it can be mean and hurtful. And sometimes like, once I sit back and go, oh, you over-process that, and maybe she just wanted to hear you speak, or just wanted to hear you like, she just wanted you to hear her and just be there for her. I don't always do that. My brain goes to problem solve. Let's fix this. Like, I know you have a problem. Like, she's super set where I'm like, I know there's a problem to fix here. We can end this in 5 minutes, I promise you. But really, what she wants is that quality time of, let's spend 20 minutes just hearing me out. And in my head, I'm like, I already have a solution for you. Can we just get to solutions? Then we can go through more things. And that's a character trait of mine that I've tried to get rid of, and I can't. And it's always like, it's built in me to solve problems that I see. Like, I see that in a lot of guys. But I've kind of got on a lot. I'm about to like list all the reasons she shouldn't marry me, really. But I'm sure she's more in her head. But I feel like with the time I've left, I'd like to turn that question back to you, Lewis.
I think for me, I could be quite impatient And the reason why I'm impatient is because I'm organized. Like if I'm like, okay, we're going to leave at 7 and it's 5 past, I'm like, why is no one respecting my time? Like, and I really value my time. So I'm quite impatient when it comes to things because I'm quite organized. So I think that's one disadvantage. One negative is that I think I'm going to be a little bit more patient. And again, I think one of the things which I've actually worked on a lot now is, and I think this is just men in general, like going back to your like problem solving thing, it's that it's responding the way that they want to be responded to, as opposed to how you would like to be responded to. So, for example, I'm very much like depending on the circumstance, but 90% of the time, if I'm facing a challenge, it's going to be like a tough love, like you can do it, like get over it, go yourself kind of thing. Whereas for Rosie, it's more reassurance and more loving approach. And sometimes I forget that. Yeah. And whilst I think I'm being supportive by, by approaching it the way I would want her to approach me or someone to approach me, it can actually do the opposite effect and just make her feel worse. So that is something which, depending on the circumstance, is it's a bit of a challenge to sometimes wave with, because sometimes I'll give tough love and she'll think it's bad and it's mean, but then the next day be like, yeah, I actually really needed to hear that. Yeah. So this actually leads into my other thing, is that sometimes I have difficulty with saying that I'm wrong. Like even then I try to find a way of saying like I was right in that scenario. So that's probably another thing as well that I need to work on. One of the things which I definitely used to have a bit of a downfall on is telling people when I have a problem, because I don't like being seen as a burden.
Right.
And I don't like putting my problems onto other people. I like solving my problems because they're my problems. And that's probably because I don't like dealing with other people's problems as much either. So, but that's one thing which I've got a lot better at communicating. Like last week, I actually had an inkling of, Rosie's going to laugh at me for this. I had an inkling of like being slightly ill. This is before I actually got ill. And by the way, women know everything, by the way. God. Just caveat. They know everything. But let me just continue.
Get off my head, get the hell out of my head. Let me do something surprising.
So I know, but so I took like Vic's first defense, because I was feeling a little bit snotty and I was like, ugh. And Rosie FaceTimed me just to say like, lie or whatever. She's like, what's wrong? And I was like, no, it's nothing, don't worry. So that's me thinking I'm hiding her from my problems because I just don't want her to worry. And then she comes over the next day and I said, oh yeah, I was feeling a little bit ill yesterday, but I'm all good now. She was like, I fucking knew something was wrong with you, because I was up laying in bed looking at my ceiling being like, he just doesn't love me anymore. I know there's something wrong. So yeah, communicate, because your girl might think that you just hate her. So yeah. And she was like, you need to tell me when there's something wrong. And I was like, yeah, no, but I knew it was just a little something and I didn't want to speak the illness into existence. So the weekend probably calmer for just not communicating how I was dying, and Rosie had to nurse me back to health anyway. So yeah, man.
That's cute though. That's cute. Mine is usually, I know you broke something. What did you break? Like, what did you... There was a time where, when we all stuck working from home and the old company used to work, I got a computer screen from them. And it was just like, I had it on like the one little dining table I had in our small flat. And I was working from that. And there was a time when I just came and just turned it on and like the screen was just cracked. But you know how like it breaks on the inside? So there wasn't a clear crack on the outside. So like, when I saw it, I was like, I can't walk past it. I was like, it looks fine. I come to work, I turn it on, I'm like, why is this screen like completely like dead? Then I looked at Sarah, I was like, what did you break? Like, you need to tell her. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, as soon as the way she said it, like, I looked at her and I was like, you're lying. You're going to tell me what you did, and I'm going to find out what you did. And then bless her, eventually she admitted that she walked past it. I was like, it's bullshit, but I'll take what I can get. But she was like, she nudged it a little bit and it just fell. Like, it just fell. And then she was so scared. So she didn't know what to do. So she put it out just like, I bet you were dancing to Beyonce. I bet you knocked it over. You smashed it and then you put it back. I'm not even upset that you broke it. I'm upset that you lied to me that you broke it. And friends are like,
that's a whole new issue.
Like, she gave me a look that made me like very obvious. It's not like she broke it and she's like, oh, I don't want to pay for something I'll break. That one is just like 200 quid a fake. It's like, yeah, I'm like 20 of them in the basement somewhere. So like, I just get fucking over. We're throwing over the way anyway. I was like, all right, you got money. Anyway, so it wasn't that. The thing is, like, for her, it wasn't that, oh, she broke something, she couldn't afford anything like that. It was the fear of my response to her breaking it, of me being like, fuck, if you've done, like, why have you broken something again, all these things. And I very quickly realized that, like, for her, that's something I need to fix. That's something I need to work on, because I'm not, this relationship, her perfect relationship isn't my mom and dad's relationship of, like, saying everything with your chest. Like, we love each other, but we're going to say honestly, and we're going to have a nice meal and just love. Like, my parents don't mince words with each other. They're very openly good, zero filter. Like, my dad says something, my mom will be like, you're an idiot. In front of my she's like, you need to get sharp. Love you, but sharp. Right? But that isn't how, that's an experience Sarah's had, and that's not what she sees. And that's not a healthy thing for most people. So I look at her and I think I need to calm down a bit, basically.
Yeah, I think that's another good thing as well. It's just like respond, don't react.
Yeah, that's it.
Because react is an emotional response, and I like to think I'm quite pragmatic. And a response is alignment of emotion with logic. So I seek an aligned response to pretty much everything, and I think that works well in business as well as relationships. But yeah, man. This has been a good app. Yeah. I'm really happy for you and Sarah. Your relationship is
really happy for you and Rosie, our new merch manager, if she'll accept that job. Thank you.
Oh no, she basically took the role and
she run with
the role herself.
I'm so gassed. She's so great at this, man. She's amazing. I'm so happy she's in.
She's good fun.
I'm so happy she's in our life.
Yeah,
like, she's such a great
fun. I think she's great. I know she's probably going to listen to this most likely when she's at work. So she's going to smile like a dickhead right now. So just going to catch her at class.
I don't know.
but yeah, I know it's been good. And yeah, it's I think we discussed a lot. There's pros and cons of both really. But I'm happy to be in a relationship now. It's a good enabler for us both, I think. And I think it just helps align like the vision of what your what you want your future to look like as well. And I think it's a good motivational tool.
Cool.
So, right, we're hitting 2 hours. We need to wrap this up. Outro. Guys, YouTube, the podcast evolve. TikTok, the podcast evolve. Let's say Instagram, the podcast evolve. TikTok.
I think they want to
TikTok.
Put something on the screen. Put some links.
Everything the podcast evolve. YouTube, please like, subscribe, because we want 100k. We want that shiny on the wall. Pause. But also, if you're listening, please give it a follow, give it a 5-star review. Thanks.
We don't want to hear
Sam. Anything else to add?
Actually, we don't mind. All right. If whatever you're gonna say it, say how you gotta say it. Be honest, be clear. I'll prefer if you're gonna speak to me. It comes with 5 shiny stars. If not, fine. I'm just gonna ignore you. I'm joking. We appreciate you guys listening to us. I love you. Lewis and loves you. And every day we come up with a different outro. We need to call it something unique. Oh no! Last time I cussed out.
No, that's when I talk to me. That's true. Oh. Yeah, This would be a bad episode. You could be like,
this year stop.
This would be a bad episode to be like, yeah.
No.
This would be a bad episode to be like, the DMs are still.
We go again. No. We're going.
Yeah,
we don't script our intros or outros. It's who we are. It's how we feel on that day. And we hope that you're feeling what we're feeling right now, which is joy and excitement for new challenges to come. That's to eat.
Facts. Have a good week, guys. Peace.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, it's so weird.